If only I understood and had more confidence around money back then. There was no exit strategy in that plan. We had to just roll with the punches. I held on to that failing as my own for many, many years. I told myself it was all my doing. And so then I went the other way and became completely risk averse and untrusting of anyone talking money to me. I was too ashamed to report the advisor, to seek some form of restitution. Somehow I determined I had agreed to everything he said and suggested. I had signed off on every strategy he positioned. So in my mind, it was completely my fault. I was a stupid woman playing in a man's game. I should just stick to my housekeeping money, and that's what I did for the next 8 years, believing only rich people get richer. I had found a way to make my money blocks be correct. Hi there, lovelies. I'm Rhonda Crimes. I'm a life and leadership coach supporting everyday people just like you to reflect and rework your everyday stories so you can step into the everyday leadership of your families and communities and create compelling, meaningful, and fruitful lives every day. Today, let's talk about money blocks. How does money sit with you? Does it get you all excited? And do you love everything about money and all the fabulous things you can do for yourself, your family, your community, and the amazing causes that are near and dear to your heart? Or does the mere mention of money send a shiver down your spine and you feel instant discomfort? It doesn't matter if you live comfortably or struggle to make ends meet. Thinking and talking about money is just not what good girls do. Am I right? Well, regardless of how you feel about money, you will still have to engage with it. And just like every other aspect of our lives, where we will come into contact with something like money, people, decisions, or the weather, what we believe about it drives our response. Now, before I go any further, let's set a disclaimer. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial planner or accountant or bookkeeper. This is a general chat about where some of the things that could be holding you back or maybe unconsciously driving your relationship with money, and I reference my own personal experiences. I really encourage you to seek out professional assistance for advice on your personal financial situation. So, let me just explain what a money block is. Simply put, it's anything that dampens, blocks, holds you stuck, or limits your experience with money and how you do want to live. I want to help you identify and work through some of those blocks through some of my stories and then some strategies that have worked for me. So I've been taking care of the day-to-day management of my own money now for just over 40 years. Mum's guidance in my very early years, to Paul Clitheroe in my young adulthood, through to refining and incorporating much of Scott Pape's teaching from his book, The Barefoot Investor, in more recent times. And honestly, so many more contributors in between. I have really grown to love to learn and read about financial stuff. But I do recognise for a good portion of my life, from my youth to adulthood, I didn't have a healthy relationship with money. And that was guided by what was modelled to me, the stories I heard, the often out of context imprinting of my early childhood, and of course, my cultural experiences growing up in a patriarchal, white, middle class Australia. I'm sure many of you will relate to this or have your own version of it. For the most part, women in my community, on the surface, we know we're living a fortunate life in comparison to so many underprivileged and mistreated people in the world. But underneath the surface, we have our own set of stories circulating. Like having been raised to believe money is the root of all evil. That money doesn't grow on trees. Money won't buy you happiness. Women are way too frivolous to manage money. There's no point in earning more money, it only goes to the tax man. Handling money is dirty. Making money is hard work. And managing it is only for the skilled and educated. And for the majority of us, we certainly learned not to talk about money. If you have too much money, there will be some wretched money grabber ready to relieve you of your good fortune. Too little money, and you'll be pitied by the do-gooders and shamed for all your ancestral failings by those on the rungs above you. Best not speak about it at all, really. Good girls stay small and silent. That is the safest place to be. For many women, the generational experience was that money was a man's business. Their father or brother or husband was the breadwinner, or some other male guardian was entrusted to take care of their affairs. Women were allocated an allowance or a pittance of housekeeping to stretch and to save something extra for the just-in-case situations, lest they need to beg their breadwinner for more, like the wastrel they would prove themselves to be. It just makes my blood boil. And the sad thing is, while it is different now, women can earn their own income. They don't need a man or guardian to support them. Many are still operating from this faulty generational belief system that drives them to only spend on and for others, like the children, family, and friends. If they do buy something for themselves, it's often hidden away and hopefully not noticed that they dared put themselves in front of the line and splurge on themselves. How many of you have either said or know someone who tells others, if questioned about how something that looks new, justify it by saying, "Oh, this old thing? No, I've had it for ages. I just found it hiding in the back of the wardrobe." Or, "Oh, this, it was so cheap. I got a bargain. It only cost X amount of dollars." Well, my lovelies, they are some of the reasons why so many women struggle with money. But what can we do about it? Firstly, I believe, start talking about money with your family, with your partner, with your trusted friends. Get curious about it. Start to allow yourself to dream about having more. What could you do with a little more? Say 5% more each week? What about twice as much? Open your heart for this. It doesn't have to be all for you. I have an actual plan if I ever land a windfall. Only a portion of it will actually stay with me. Most of it will be distributed to serve others. I know what I want to do and have a figure that will be sufficient. And actually, there are many tiers to my plan, so any windfall amount is actually covered in it. And as a family, we have open discussions about these dreams for our future. They have become a collective, which is really quite lovely. We talk about how we're doing with our bank balances and how our progress is going toward our money intentions and goals. We are each other's cheerleaders and first port of call for wise counsel. The next thing I believe is to actually get familiar with your numbers. What is coming in? What is going out? What is left over? These three questions are very simple, but so many people, and I dare to say women especially, don't have the answers. Hello, ostrich syndrome. Even if you are not the person who handles the day-to-day finances in your household, you need to know these numbers. I've heard too many stories where one person in a relationship has no clue where all the money is or what their actual situation is, and that never ends well in a crisis. Compounding this, the financial institutional giants are so very happy to keep us distracted with all their offerings of consumer credit that is just so easy to access. Just leave all the messy numbers to them. Here's a piece of plastic, honey, and if that's not enough, we can always increase the limit so you need never go without a gain. The funny thing is, if you did know the answers to those three questions, what's coming in, what's going out, and what's left over, combined with a real knowing of what's important for you, you wouldn't need consumer credit or a lotto win. Just about everyone would love to win lotto though. And I know many people within my own extended family, in fact, who have been investing for many, many years and not won a decent amount in all that time. Oh, it's only $10 to $30 a week or a couple of dollars here and there on a scratchy, they say. But did you know, if they had used that money to actually invest, they could have had their own windfall by now. There is a simple quiz that I remember being asked at high school in a math lesson. The teacher presented 3 scenarios and asked us to choose which would be better. Would it be better to get $30,000 today, guaranteed to take and keep straight away? Or, if we could leave it alone, we would double our money in 30 days and get $60,000 for our patients? Or to get $1 a day compounding over 30 days? What do you think? Well, it's important to remember we were students in the 80s and $60,000 sounded like a king's ransom. I knew my own parents lost our family home over an $8,000 loan deficit in the early 80s. And although there was a dodgy bank manager involved in that story, you get the context, right? So if you are a money talker, you might have heard of the power of compounding. We found out that if we'd chosen option 3, instead of the $30 we'd all sort of figured we'd get, we could have had a staggering amount over $500 million after 30 days. And that was without any interest rates being involved. I remember it was one of the most exciting math classes I ever attended. Unfortunately, it stayed with me as an intellectual piece. I didn't put $1 a day away, even though I had started earning money as a 15-year-old. If I'd done that as a 15-year-old, it would have taken more than half my weekly pay. I just couldn't make that sacrifice. I can't imagine how well seated I would have been had I actually shifted that lesson into taking action. As my income increased over the years, I saved for some purchases, and when I couldn't quite afford it, I borrowed for it. The bank was very generous in offering me a credit card and then offered to keep raising the balance without me having to do very much at all. That was all part of their service. And that became the pattern of my life and so many others. Save a little, spend most, borrow for the rest. Today, thankfully, it's a different story. A lesson learned late in my own life, and mostly because we didn't talk too much about money in my family or in mixed company, other than making sure you paid the bills and how to save for special things. My third piece is having an exit strategy in place. This sounds like preparing for failure, but actually that is just another story we tell ourselves to avoid having challenging conversations around money. It's actually being prepared for all events. History shows us that there are times when the going is good. There are profits to be made. But it also shows us that there are crashes. Often the actual timing is unpredictable, but what is predictable is they will happen. Money is a human invention, and humans are mostly driven by fear or greed when it comes to money. What goes up must come down, so lessons can be learned, new strategies and schemes created that allow it to go back up again. I learned this exit strategy lesson the hard way. I did get interested in changing my relationship with money in 2005. My husband and I were in a company that was doing really well, and it provided us the opportunity to double the size of our family home. We could borrow more and then pay it back over time. We'd also cottoned on to the fortnightly repayments by then, so we felt that we were in a really good place. Then, a couple of the business partners decided they wanted to change things up and remove 2 of the directors, my husband being one of them. Well, no one could agree on anything, and as a result, the business was closed down, leaving us in sight of a very tidy sum to come our way, though. It would have been enough to pay off our mortgage, Or we could invest and build our portfolio. The financial advisor we retained had a smooth and convincing tongue. We had leveraged all the equity available in our now very large house. Our mortgage was 3 times what it was when we started with him, as well as having a margin loan that would leverage our resources and anticipated profits exponentially. It was compounding on steroids. And little did I realise I was a ready lamb being prepared for the slaughter in the wake of the global financial crisis of 2007-2008. You see, it works both ways, and our portfolio went south very quickly with the crash, and we had to sell everything in a falling market to cover the margin calls the bank was asking for. You always need to keep a certain amount of liquid money available so the bank doesn't ever lose. This was not a problem while things were going well, as they had been for that short space of time prior. If only I understood and had more confidence around money back then. There was no exit strategy in that plan. We had to just roll with the punches. I held on to that failing as my own for many, many years. I told myself it was all my doing. And so then I went the other way and became completely risk averse and untrusting of anyone talking money to me. I was too ashamed to report the advisor, to seek some form of restitution. Somehow I determined I had agreed to everything he said and suggested. I had signed off on every strategy he positioned. So in my mind, it was completely my fault. I was a stupid woman playing in a man's game. I should just stick to my housekeeping money, and that's what I did for the next 8 years, believing only rich people get richer. I had found a way to make my money blocks be correct. My next piece is about admitting your own fears and finding a way to flip them. One day I realised I was modelling this dysfunctional money relationship behaviour to my kids, and that the cycle would continue unless I changed what I was modelling. I recognised I had done really well with them as children to get started. They knew a lot about money management, how to save, how to spend. I provided them safe opportunities to experience what it felt like to be in debt and how long it took to climb out of that. I knew I had read a lot of really useful things. I had my own budget down pat. I was a really good money manager. But I also recognised I was not a good money grower. And then by chance, while Christmas shopping, I discovered Scott Pape's The Barefoot Investor book. He laid it out really simply, and I gave a copy to each of my kids. He was providing us with information we'd not fully grasped. I totally recommend that book for anyone who is not making the fundamental financial progress they wish they could. So we all set up our money buckets for daily living, unexpected expenses, the good stuff, our own guilt-free spending, and future saving. We all got rid of any consumer debt, and within months, we were back on track. And best of all, it was pretty much all on autopilot. I'm really proud to say my kids have also taken their financial education further and paid cash for holidays, new cars, home deposits, and venturing into the stock market with confidence. They know the financial foundations they have established are strong and enduring. We all talk openly about our money. We all know how much is coming in, how much is going out, what's left over, and what's important for us to move forward financially. We also make sure we have the exit strategy in place if things start to go south. We've all learned to identify our fears and blocks around money, and together we find ways to flip them or call them out more often as not as BS. It is such a liberating place to be. It really does feel clean and simple. Just like emotions or energy, money ebbs and flows. There are unexpected expenses and windfalls, but all of them can be taken care of calmly and with good grace from a place of faith and trust. So, my lovely, is it time you paid some attention to your money blocks? Do you have stories that are driving you down the wrong road, or BS beliefs that are buried below the surface but still forming your experiences and responses? Let me know if you'd like any help. Not financial advice, of course, but helping you let go of the crappy stories, sharing tips and supporting you to manage some strategies that will move you forward. Allowing you headspace to focus on what is most important, rather than how you can beat yourself up over the mess you make with money. I hope this has been useful, and if through this message you see that your now is not the picture you've painted for yourself, and you'd like any help on this discovery, or maybe something completely different that you intuitively know or feel isn't letting your true colours shine through, then please do get in touch with me. You can do it really easily by leaving a comment, sending me a private message, or popping over to my brand new website, rhondacrimes.simplero.com, and go to the Contact Me page that now houses the email and Calendly online diary options. If you know or feel you're hitting your "I've had enough of this" set point, let's set up a free curiosity call and have a chat. See how I can support you and to make sure we're a good fit for each other without any obligations. Much love until next time.